All right, good morning, North Carolina. We're just about to get started on today's webinar on online business development tools. We're just going to give everybody a quick minute just to come in. And I will soon be introducing you to the wonderful panel we have gathered for you today. So let's just give it one quick minute and we'll get started very, very shortly. All right, we've got a few people still coming in. We'll get started in just a minute. Okie dokie. All right. Well, good morning, exporters. Good morning, North Carolina. Welcome to this webinar on online business development tools to help you grow your export sales, brand, and business in partnership with the EDPNC. My name is Adrian Viller, and today I am joined by a wonderful, wonderful team from both North Carolina and from IBT Online. My name is, as I mentioned earlier, Adrian Viller, Director of Online Business Development, and I'm joined today by Michael Cole, International Trade Manager of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, EDPNC. Also, I am joined today by Ethel Torres, President of the National Drug Source, a North Carolina-based company, and also by our Chief Content Officer, Susanna Hardy. Okay. All right, just a little bit about us at IBT Online before we get started. We are the sponsors, and we are the company that is behind the North Carolina Online Global Programs, which are designed to grow your export sales, brand, and business online and globally. Winners of the President's E Award in 2020. We've been in business for over 19 years as a digital marketing agency helping exporters, and we've developed partnerships with over 25 different U.S. states, including the state of North Carolina. We are a private company with U.S. headquarters, and we're 100% focused on building, hosting, managing online tools for our clients to help them grow their businesses. These products fall under two categories, website and online marketing. And perhaps our most unique selling point is that we work, think, and act globally and online, and have done so since our creation in 2002. In terms of today's agenda, we've divided up the program into 6 sections. Our aim is to provide you with an information-packed, pragmatic, and helpful resource, including time at the end for your questions. So please do keep popping them into the chat box at any time. We're going to start with a summary from Mike Cole talking about North Carolina and the wonderful resources that are available via the EDPNC. Then I'll go next and talk to you a little bit about why North Carolina exporters need online business development tools. Then Ethel Torres from the National Drug Source will talk to you a little bit about their story as a North Carolina exporter and their experience with online business development tools. And then I'll come back and talk to you a little bit about website localization. That my colleague Susanna, our Chief Content Officer, will tell you a little bit about international online marketing for North Carolina exporters before we finally get to your questions and a few takeaways for you. So with that in mind, I would love to pass on the conversation to Michael Cole, International Trade Manager of the EDPNC, to tell us a little bit about resources that are available for North Carolina companies. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Adrian. Thank you so much to you and Susanna and the whole IBT team for putting on this webinar. A lot of good information going to be shared today, folks. Real quick, and pardon my voice, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so bear with me there. A lot of you in attendance today are pretty familiar with what our mission is and what we do, but just to recap briefly, EDPNC really was founded for one goal ultimately, and that is to improve the quality of life in North Carolina, in our home state. And we do that through a variety of means. We promote our world-class travel and tourism industry. We recruit other businesses to the state, both foreign and domestic businesses to North Carolina, to create more jobs. We have an existing industry support team that can help you with those on-the-ground needs, whether it's workforce development or finding a new location for a business expansion. My mission, along with the other 4 international trade managers, is to help North Carolina businesses find customers all over the world. And specifically, we do that in several ways and with several resources and services that we have available for North Carolina companies. And by the way, all of these resources and services are essentially free of charge for any North Carolina exporter that manufactures or is headquartered in our state. We can help with certificates of free sale. Many foreign governments require these documents for you to export initially into a country. We can provide those for a very small fee. That's one of the few things that we have to charge for, but we can typically turn those around much faster and at much less expense than other organizations can do those. We have 6 international offices actually that work on behalf of the state of North Carolina. Those offices are all over the globe, and they include offices in Canada and Mexico, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Hong Kong, the Middle East. Our New Mexico office covers a handful of other countries in South America, including Peru, Colombia, Brazil, and Chile. The thing that I'm most excited to share with you folks who may not be familiar is a grant program that we have. It's a grant that comes to us from the United States Small Business Administration. It's called the STEP grant, and we administer those funds on a state level. And those funds provide all sorts of funding opportunities for your small and medium-sized business. That is money to exhibit at a foreign trade show, money to travel to a foreign trade show, money for various services from U.S. commercial service, distributor searches, and the newest category, which is most relevant for today, is a category of the grant that will give you up to $10,000 for developing your website specifically targeted towards a foreign audience. And I really want to stress the importance of this. You know, 6-8 months ago, we were all meeting like this virtually because we had to, because it was safe. And as the months went on and the vaccination rate went up, I think we were all very hopeful that business would return to quote normal. And now we're seeing people start to move back to virtual appointments. Folks, this is not going to go away anytime soon, we don't believe. And I'm probably going to say something that may seem obvious to most people, and that is, we really want to encourage folks to take advantage of online resources, online programs, ways to reach your customers virtually when you're unable to travel and meet with those people physically. Don't wait. The companies that have taken advantage of things like this in the last 18 months are the companies now that are doing very well. So we're glad you're here. Our whole team is available to support you. We have trade managers that represent nearly every industry in the state of North Carolina. I encourage you to reach out to us, and we can have a discussion about what portions of the grant you can best utilize to maximize your international reach, including with those web-based tools that they're going to talk about today. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael, for that overview of the resources and services that are provided by the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. A wonderful organization and wonderful support for exporters in the state of North Carolina. And we do have a little poll for our audience before we move on. So I have that coming up on everyone's screen. And the poll question, there we go, is, have you used the services? Have you already taken advantage of the services offered by the EDPNC? We're going to give you a couple of seconds to chime in. Oh, we have plenty of answers coming in. Very lively audience today. That's awesome. Thank you so much for all of your responses. I'll give you guys just another 5 seconds or so to get in there and submit your response. Great. It looks like very of you, almost 2/3 of you, have taken advantage of the services that are offered by the EDPNC, which is phenomenal. So good news for companies in North Carolina that you have that resource, those resources available from the EDPNC available to you guys. So again, Michael, thank you so much for coming in and participating, and I hope you feel better soon. We're going to move on a little bit now and talk about why North Carolina exporters need online resources. And really where we come in, where IBT comes in, is to be a resource and a helping hand as well to North Carolina exporters. A lot of you haven't dealt with online business development tools before, and you're very curious about how they can benefit your business. Today's presentation hopefully addresses some of those concerns, but of course, if you have any questions, feel free to pipe them into the chat box on your screen, and we look forward to addressing those towards the end of today's presentation. So let's talk a little bit about the why. In the last 18 months, the world has changed, almost 20 months now. The world has changed, and it keeps changing over and over, almost as often as we talk about what's going on in the world. And when we speak to our clients over and over again, we hear that these are the priorities, and these is what they're prioritizing now in light of the challenges presented by the pandemic and everything that's happened since. Companies want to look after all of their stakeholders, manage their costs and their cash flows, maintain the existing supply chains and existing partnerships, but more importantly, to keep growing, to keep generating sales, exports, and business, to keep that top line growth of the revenue. And that is what online business development tools are here to help you do. They're here to help you support your business growth in spite of adverse conditions in the world. So let's talk about why. Let's talk about why the world has gone online, because we know it has. Most certainly, we've all switched to doing our grocery shopping online the last couple of months. But let's talk about the greater trend of how the world has gone online over the last 20 months or so. As of January 2021, which is when we got these great statistics from Hootsuite, more than 4.6 billion people across the world are online. That's quite a bit of share of the entire world's population. About 60% of it, in fact, is now online. And we're spending quite a bit of time online. As a matter of fact, nearly 7 hours a day. If you take anything away from the slide, it should be that your customers, your prospects, your leads, your future distributors, future employees, suppliers, alternate suppliers, we're all talking about supply chain resiliency these days. Everyone your business touches is online, and most of them are spending a lot of time during the day online. And the numbers are only going in one trend, which is up. 360 million people joined the internet last year, and 490 million people joined social media in 2020. This is all phenomenal news for small and medium-sized enterprises. It means that there is a clear, effective, and not very expensive way to go global, punch above your weight, and compete against bigger companies in your space. So we did say that 4.6 billion people around the world are online now, and 4.2 billion of them are actively using social media. And the vast majority of them are using it from one of these, from a mobile device. I know I certainly do. And the average time spent on social media per day is huge. It's 2.5 hours. Your kids are probably spending more than 2.5 hours on TikTok. There's a lot of communicating going on, and that's growing increasingly as the months go on. And what's really interesting for us is that 43% of internet users are using social media for work purposes. And that includes well-known platforms like LinkedIn, but of course it also involves platforms like Facebook, like YouTube, and a lot of other channels that we'll talk about a little bit later today. And all of this, again, is great news for companies and exporters. And really what it means is that you know exactly where your clients are and what they're doing at any given time during the day. They're probably on their phone looking at videos. And so they're all online, they're all on social media, and you can use this to your advantage. This is not only just for B2C companies anymore, it is also very much for B2B companies these days. There are many companies in the B2B space, and sometimes B2B companies don't pay that much attention to their online presence, which is really, really a mistake. And this really happens because companies and their decision makers and the people who run the companies can suffer a bit from what we call the perfectly engineered syndrome. What this means exactly is when you believe, and you are probably right, that deep down that your product or your service is so wonderful that it will just sell itself. And you might be right. In a normal sort of situation, a normal setting, you get in front of a client, you show them your product, you show them your service, and it does sell itself. But unfortunately, now companies are not really too keen on meeting face-to-face. Trade shows are being canceled left and right, and the ones that are happening are very small and very reduced, so you don't get that exposure anymore. And so, trade missions are going virtual, or they're getting postponed. So you really need to start thinking about ways in which you can get in front of your clients and communicate with them effectively. Having an online presence that will speak to how wonderful your products are and be keyword optimized so that people can find you is truly one way to make that go. And people who make purchases for their business, they do their due diligence on their product, they do their due diligence on services, on your company, on your competitors. They all start that research online before they ever talk to you. So do bear that in mind, how important it is to be keyword optimized, because you want to communicate your value to clients before they ever even start talking to you. You see here 94% of B2B purchases are researched before ever contacting a sales rep or a distributor. And over 70% of searches start with a generic search term, such as CRM software, for example, rather than a specific brand. I also want to add here, just as a parenthesis, that B2B e-commerce is 3 times the size of B2C e-commerce. So if you're not considering e-commerce, if you're not thinking about e-commerce, this is really a conversation that you need to start having internally, because you are missing out on some major opportunities. So let's talk about what those core online business development tools are. And from our perspective, we think of them as 2 interrelated pieces. You got your website and you got your online marketing. And there was a time when it was perfectly fine. It was okay just to have your basic core domestic website, and then you just made sure that your webmaster optimized it every now and then, every year for Christmas, or like an annual spring cleaning for the search engine, and maybe you publish on your blog once a year, and that ranked you to the top on the search results for Google. But now that everyone and their mother has a website, things are a bit more competitive out there. So you still need a good, well-designed, user-friendly website here for the US, and you still need that search engine optimization strategy. But now that SEO, it really needs to be updated, needs to be checked, it needs to be freshened up regularly. So that one blog per year that you were doing before, it just doesn't cut it anymore. And you really need regular online marketing, like a structured social media outreach calendar, to make sure that you can get found, that the value of your product and your business can be understood, and that you're easy to do business with, both in the United States and outside of the United States. So this is what it looks like in practice. When we think about websites as real estate, right? And you have real estate, you buy your land, and then you build the improvements. So your website is the land, the website is what you start with, and then your SEO and your social media are the improvements. That's what drives traffic engagement and conversions on your websites. And for your international markets, it should look very similar to that. It should follow the same pattern. So let's just say your focus markets are Brazil and France, as you see on the screen. So you really want to have a localized business development website in both of those markets, one in the Brazilian market that's fully localized, translated content that's designed for the Brazilian market, and then you have an SEO strategy and a social media strategy behind it. And the same for France. You have French content on a French website with an SEO and a social media strategy specifically for that. Of course, as you can imagine, brand consistency is very important. So the look and feel of your French and your Brazilian websites should be about the same as your US site, but it has to be localized for each of those environments and what we call the local user experience, which is the expectation that users in those markets have for what a website should do. So the takeaway here is make sure that you have a strong US website first with its proper with a proper marketing strategy behind it, and then localize your websites and support them with localized online marketing. So in summary here, why do North Carolina companies need localized websites? Well, because the world has gone online, and your clients or prospects, your future employees and suppliers, they're going to be searching for you online in their local environment on their local Google search engine. And as the world continues to evolve, it looks like, as Michael was saying, that online is here to stay, virtual is here to stay. So as we prepare for this new environment and we adapt to this new environment, take advantage of the business development tools that are out there that allow you to be found, that allow you to be understood, and allow your business to grow and thrive in spite of adverse market conditions. This is a little bit of a slide about the North Carolina Online Global Programs. As we talked about earlier, the North Carolina Online Global Programs revolve around two things: website localization, and they revolve around international online marketing. And they're really there, the benefits are on your screen, but they're really there to create a sales funnel and an international sales funnel and drive your top line revenue in your top export markets. So with that in mind, I want to invite Ethel Torres from the National Drug Source to tell us a little bit about her experience with online business development tools and share with us a couple of best practices and key learnings. Ethel, good morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Please, Ethel, all yours.
No problem. I remember clearly whenever I first learned about the STEP program, I was at a Charlotte Export Center, and I'm sorry, is there an echo I need to take care of?
You're fine.
Okay. And I remember that I was introduced to Michael, and at that time he sat with me and started asking me a few questions and just, you know, getting to learn more about National Drug Source. At that point, you know, he started to tell me, you know, are you aware of these resources that are available, you know, to you through the STEP program? And I'll never forget just being absolutely floored as I learned about, you know, these resources that were available and thinking, oh my goodness, that's exactly what we need. We had just, we were in the process of finalizing several, you know, different projects, and one of them was an e-commerce platform that we had created to communicate in an easier way with our customers overseas, to be able to get information in their hands in real time, you know, because we were experiencing difficulties with the difference in time zones, and as a team we thought, okay, well now what? How are we going to get found? How are we going to let people know that we're out there and that we're able to help them source from the United States so that they don't have to try to go through second and third parties? They can, you know, how can we make it easier for them to do business directly with us? And just like that, we ran into the STEP program, and it was just, the timing was just so perfect. And so needless to say, when we found out that qualifying North Carolina businesses, and we were thrilled to see that we qualified, could earn a grant of up to $10,000 for a localization project, and that in addition to that, we could have access to even more resources for marketing media. We jumped right in, and so the process was smooth. It was straightforward, and we were very grateful to run into the folks over here that that made it possible, that are on this webinar today. So needless to say, we moved forward with the project and chose North Carolina Online Global Program because they really did provide us with a streamlined approach to accomplishing our goals. They made it easy for us. We weren't sure how much more we could take on, and so they assured us and said, no, we're going to do most of the heavy lifting. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. And if sure, we need your collaboration, but we're not here to make your job harder. And I kind of just smirked and said, yeah, we'll see about that, because we had just been involved in some other software programs where there was a lot of heavy lifting involved on our part, but they stayed true to their word. They held our hands in the process, made it very streamlined, made it to where everything was organized. We were also very concerned about not coming in on time, and they made sure that they stayed on time, and helped us create 2 localized websites, one in for the Middle Eastern market in Saudi Arabia, which was one of our target markets, and then the other one was in Latin America, which we were focusing more on the Chilean market for Latin America. Nevertheless, we are interested in the American market in whole. So what you're seeing here on your screen right now is the 2 localized websites. And I'll never forget the first time we looked at these websites, the feeling of like, wow, that's our website in Arabic. And I'm a Spanish speaker, so I was able to very easily read the Spanish website. But it was really surreal and strange to just see all this, all these Arabic letters on the screen and not knowing what it meant. And I can also attest to the fact that as a Spanish speaker, the translation, the quality of the translation, as I looked at all the content that IBT provided, they stay true to the content in our English website. And so it was definitely a positive experience for us. We had just come off the heels of a failed software implementation project, so it was very refreshing to have a positive experience with IBT, and them being very responsive and accommodating to our needs. So needless to say, where we stand today now, we had these localized websites, as you on your screen, for the Middle Eastern market and the Chilean market, the Latin American market. We said, well, okay, well now we have to do some digital marketing, right? We have to get these websites optimized and found, and so that's where we are right now in the process of we're starting the digital marketing piece, and we're really excited about entering that stage project. But I will say that as a company, what it's done for us already is, as a company, the confidence that we feel in approaching customers in these markets. These localized websites communicate buy-in to our customers, and I think that it also provides a very strong base for these digital marketing campaigns that we're launching. And we've already seen the response from our customers in these markets that have taken a look at our website and have been absolutely delighted that there's a website that has been created. And we're also about to go to our trade show in Saudi Arabia. And so all of this happened at the same time, and we're really excited about how everything's being, just coming together. And all of it has been made possible because of this STEP program. So we're optimistic. We can say that it's been a very positive for our company, and I look forward to providing you even more positive information in the very near future here as we continue to develop the program.
Wonderful, Ethel. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know we said questions at the end, but I did see a question come through that I thought would be relevant. So if you don't mind, the question is really, how much work was involved from your end? How much work did you have to put in with the North Carolina Online Global programs to get these websites up and running? How much of your time did it eat up, and how quickly did these get launched?
Okay, well, that's exact. I knew that was a question on somebody's mind as a business owner, so I definitely mentioned that a little bit earlier in terms of the heavy lifting that they did. I was surprised at how little of my effort was required. I should preface it by saying that if you don't have any content at all, if your website is 15 years old and needs to be redone already, then kind of like I don't want to say garbage in, garbage out, but that kind of comes to mind, right? You have to have something that you can start with, and so the fact that we had a fresh website, fresh content when we started this program, I think really did make a difference. So we were able to take our current website and pay attention to the market that it was being localized into, right? So we trimmed down our current website because you do want to trim it down. You don't want a huge website to be translated. And in doing so, we were able also to say, well, what areas do we need to trim out because of the market that we're going into, with that market in mind? And it was not very labor intensive for me. After I did that, they did all the heavy lifting after that point. So I think you have to analyze where you are. Say, okay, well, where am I in this process? Does my whole website need to be redone? Is my messaging outdated? If so, then maybe you have a little bit more heavy lifting up front than I did. But definitely, they did. I was delighted to see how little work it took an effort on our part.
Wonderful. And another question for you, this one from Karen Smith. Ethel, how do you keep up the updated, or rather your translated websites? How do you, and your localized websites, how do you keep them updated?
Okay, so I really can't answer that because they just went live earlier this year, so they're pretty up to date. I certainly can't make something up and say this is how I do it. However, we have already had to make some changes because we realized, the messaging needs to be somewhat modified. And that was actually very easy as well. I simply, took snippets of the areas of the website where we understood we needed to clean up the messaging a little bit into that market, sent it right over to them, and they took care of making sure all the changes were implemented. So it hasn't, up to this point, the little bit of tweaks, I guess, that we've done to the messaging, it's been, very straightforward. And I failed to answer the second part of the earlier question in terms of, how long did it take and when did we go live? They said we would go live, XYZ date, and we went live on that exact date. And I believe the whole process was maybe five months or so from the time that we started the project to the time that we decided to go live. And part of that, your timeline may be different than ours. Part of that was us saying, hey, we would like to go live on more or less this time frame because we have other things that we're trying to accomplish at the same time.
Wonderful, Ethel. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about, what Ethel did with her website, taking her U.S. web presence and spreading that out to other markets, to her top export markets in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and in Latin America, especially in Chile. And so you may be asking yourself, why can't I just use my US website to go global? And this is a question that a lot of people ask. And, a lot of people think, well, if I just add a couple of foreign language pages, that'll get indexed into Google and that will do the job. Unfortunately, that's just not the case anymore. Where the disconnect happens is that search engines, and we're going to be talking, of course, about Google, but we also need to talk about Yandex, Bing, Baidu, and in some cases even YouTube, Amazon, Facebook. They're all searcher-centric search engines, and what that means is, in Google's case, for example, is that there isn't really one Google search engine. As a matter of fact, Google has about 192 different search engines that are country or region specific. And they deliver results. The algorithm is designed to deliver results that Google thinks are specifically relevant to the searcher. So say you're targeting the German audience, right? You want to target the German market, good opportunity for you there. What you need to understand is that most searchers in that market, even though they might speak English, but they'll start their search not on the US google.com, but they'll start on google.de, and more than likely they will start their search in German. So unless your website is optimized for the German market and has content in German, and there's an SEO strategy for that market, your website is probably going to be pretty much invisible to that searcher. So you got to take that into account when you think about your top export markets and where you think about where your products and services can be successful. And here's a great example of how country-specific Google's results are relevant to the user that's looking for this. So we did the search from two different places. One of our colleagues in North Carolina looked for throw pillows for her couch. And another of our colleagues, Susanna, in the UK, did the same search, but for cushions for her sofa in the UK. And so what you need to understand there is, of course, this is part of the localization process. People look for things in a different way. Pillows, we might talk about throw pillows, is something that we put on our couch here in the US. In the UK, you would never use that vocabulary to refer to something that you put on your couch or your sofa. You're going to talk about cushions. So a sofa has cushions. It does not have pillows. So that's the first thing that you need to understand in terms of the vocabulary and how the keywords are going to change depending on who is searching. But also look at the results page and look at the results that are available. And what you'll see is a couple of different things. You'll see two big brands that are common, Wayfair, of course, and Amazon. So you have wayfair.co.uk and amazon.co.uk on the UK search results page, as well as you have the US versions of those websites on the North Carolina search. But then you also have entirely different companies, entirely different products that are being showcased in one result versus another. Again, in consideration of the local user experience. So local results for local users, that is what all search engines are designed to do. And unless you have a website that is speaking to those search engines and letting the search engine know that you're relevant to searchers in their market, your website is going, unfortunately, to be very much invisible. And let's talk a little bit about keywords. You just saw throw pillow versus cushion. But let's take it, and that's in English, but let's just take it a step further and talk about a difference in Spanish. So you need to understand how your buyer persona and their language change in order to be relevant to those searchers per the search engine that they're using. In this example, we have car in Spanish. There are two ways to translate that. Actually, it's more than a few ways to translate that, but for the sake of this example, we'll just talk about auto and coche. So if you're a company that sells parts or accessories or trinkets for cars and you're selling into Mexico, then you want to make sure that you're using the word auto in your translation instead of coche. because only 27% of users in Mexico looked for coche as opposed to the more popular auto. However, if you're going to Spain, if you're going across the Atlantic and over into España, then you definitely need to use coche, because basically, as you see there, 91% or basically all searchers in that market looked for the keyword coche as opposed to the keyword auto. So your website and your social media need to follow that that keyword optimization trend in order for you to be found, in order for you to be understood, and in order for you to be easy to do business with in those markets. So let's talk a little bit about just how websites and online marketing can create a localized user experience. Essentially, what you need to keep in mind is that in order for it to be possible that your website is found by users in a specific market, you need to index, you need to understand how Google's algorithm works. And again, you know, there's hundreds of billions of pages that Google's algorithm has to comb for in order to identify what is most relevant for the searcher. What the cheat code is that you need to make it easy for Google to understand that your website is relevant for that searcher. So it is really on you to make sure that Google understands that. And I say Google, but I really mean all the search engines that are out there, to understand that your website is relevant for that market. So you need the websites and the online marketing to be customer-centric and to be localized. And that involves a variety of different things, from domain names to multilingual navigation, to being mobile friendly, to adapting the designs, very important. For example, in Ethel's case in Saudi Arabia, where readers read right to left instead of left to right. So the whole website needs to be adapted, but also taking account cultural aspects, the search engine optimization strategy, hosting them in country, and looking at the regulatory environments and requirements. So when websites are localized, this is sort of what it looks like. In this particular case, we built a website in Australia for a client whose main export market was the Australian market. And when done right, this is pretty much the results that you would expect to see. In 1 month, this is just taking a traffic from their website for 1 month. Their B2B site shows that the majority of traffic, 77% of it, is from their target market, Australia. Not only that, but 86% of all traffic comes from Australia and New Zealand combined. So, and 99% of the traffic comes from English-speaking countries. So this kind of shows you how Google thinks that this website is relevant, is very, very relevant for the Australian market. It's a little bit relevant to neighboring countries, and it's barely relevant to other English-speaking countries, and not relevant at all for anyone who is not an English speaker. So, and on the right-hand side of the screen, what you can see is how you can even get, you know, one level deeper into localization and focus on a specific state or a specific region or a specific city or even neighborhood. So for those of you who may have products that sell very well in coastal areas, for example, you can definitely hyper-localize your web presence, your social media for those markets. And here we have a little bit of an example of a company that localized their websites. It's a consumer brand called Nomadic State of Mind, a very fantastic North Carolina company that manufactures something they call festival shoes. And they were interested in expanding into their core target markets of South Africa and Taiwan. And so we built websites for them that focus on finding new distributors. So wanting to find new distributors in South Africa and Taiwan. But what I want you to notice of these websites is a couple of different things. First, the branding is the same across all websites. However, you know, what changes is how the content is delivered. The imagery is a bit different because the expectations, the cultural expectations in those countries are different. However, the calls to action and the goals being the same, you know, building brand awareness, positioning their brand within the consumer market in those two economies, and finding new distributors and thus driving the business forward, all are represented across those two websites. And this, for example, is the form submission page the call to action to allow distributors to go on the website and file to become distributors for Nomadic. Here's another North Carolina company that we thought you might want to get to know. It's called Advanced Super Abrasives. It's a rural North Carolina exporter. And this is a company that wanted to do a couple of different things. Their goals were to go global and with websites in Canada and Mexico, create brand awareness. And so the first thing that we did was redesign their US website and then localize that website to Mexico, to Canada, having that brand alignment across all websites, and of course, generate leads for them. So we run their online marketing as well, email campaigns, and the result really was a flood of emails, a flood of form submissions, and giving them inbound leads onto their website and keeping their sales team occupied. Jonathan Zucks, who is their president, tells the story very much better than I do, so I will let him do the talking. I'm going to switch over screens here. Hopefully this works, and let's listen in.
My name is Jonathan Such with Advanced Super Abrasives, a manufacturer of grinding wheels, and we currently service 28 countries around the world out of Western North Carolina. Our main products cover sectors anything from energy, automotive, aerospace, medical, and many other industries that you touch every day in your life. Advanced Super Abrasives currently utilizes several of IBT Online's programs. One includes redoing our entire US website, which has already been rolled out, and also creating websites for two target markets. One is Canada and one is Mexico. We're not only utilizing IBT Online to create websites for us in not only US and worldwide, we're also utilizing their marketing expertise. This includes covering multiple platforms such as social media, email campaigns, and tracking our website data usage. Advanced Super Abrasives see several benefits to using IBT Online Global Program. One thing that we noticed is brand awareness is going through the roof. We're also seeing more traffic to our website, and we're also seeing more potential customers visiting us through our social media marketing. We will be tracking these and other factors as we move forward in working with IBT Online on further marketing campaigns. Working with IBT Online has been a great experience. Their professionalism and expertise is really unmatched in anybody that I've met in this realm. Coming up with these website ideas, coming up with marketing campaigns, keeping you engaged throughout the entire process, and pushing you to make sure that we make all the deadlines set forth at the beginning of the project really sets IBT Online apart. I would definitely recommend IBT Online for anybody that's willing and able and wanting to really grow your business internationally. This is a big step that any company must take, and you really have to find a great partner. IBT Online is that great partner, and I would recommend them to anybody. And I will continue working with IBT Online, and I hope you do too.
Great. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that little bit from Jonathan Zucks. And we have a case study on our website about ASI, which you can definitely find on our resources page, which we'll share at the end of this meeting. So here's a little bit about another company, a North Carolina-based company that's done e-commerce localization. And e-commerce localization is a big part of the next step in terms of B2B development. In this particular case, HardTrue, which is a company that really wanted to localize their e-commerce experience to their top export markets in the UK and Germany. And so we developed websites for them on Shopify that specifically met the requirements of having the scope driven by needs and objectives, with the tangible benefit of allowing companies, allowing HardTrue to be found in those markets, understood in those markets, and being really easy to do business with a direct e-commerce experience into the UK and Germany. So now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Susanna, to tell us a little bit about the online marketing programs available for North Carolina exporters. Hi, Susanna.
Hi, Adrian. Hi, everybody. Delighted to be here. Thank you very much. And let's talk about international online marketing. I realize we're running a bit short on time, so I'm going to get mine quickly through to leave some time for questions. I see there's a couple of questions already come in. Please do drop in more. Adrian mentioned earlier the importance of social media on the online world. Like 4.2 billion of us are clicking away on our iPhones all the time, or our Androids all the time on social media. YouTube is the largest in the world, but you know, WeChat is a whole other environment with also over 1 billion people in China and Southeast Asia. Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, all owned by the same Facebook company. In total, I think they have over 3 billion users. But there's lots of different ways of looking at this, and they differ for each market, and that's, I think, the key message we want to bring across. So if we look, you know, obviously social media is a way of absolutely being really efficient about your messaging, because you connect with your client and your prospective clients when they want. So that's a very sort of, you know, non-aggressive way in a sense. It's not cold calling. It's when they want to interact, they find you. So that's a nice sort of inbound marketing aspect of online, of social media. On the next slide, you'll see also some of the big stats as well. Here's an example of one of the key things that you need to have when you're looking at online marketing. One of the very first things also for your website is to identify your international buyer persona. A buyer persona is not the same as a company. The buyer persona is a real person that you're trying to figure out, how does that person go online? What search engine do they use? What social media platforms do they use? What do they like? How do they interact? How are they? And your international buyer personas could be very different from your US, North Carolina buyer persona. A couple of big questions to ask yourself here on the slide, just to hit it out. But I wanted to show you also some screenshots from L'Oreal, just as an example. I mean, L'Oreal, this is the homepage of L'Oreal USA. So L'Oreal USA shows women on the top, all very dynamic. L'Oreal Mexico is quite different. It's subtly different, actually. There's a man there. It's more informal. They're still in an office environment in a skyscraper, but it's subtly different because the buyer persona in Mexico is a little bit different from what you would have in the USA. In Brazil, it's again just a shade different again, even less formal. They're no longer in an office building, they're by an industrial port. It's two women together. You can see it feels very Brazilian in the sense that you have mountain, sky, sea behind you. These are all just subtle differences that tell you that L'Oreal is very aware of their buyer personas in these markets in that way. So one of the first things you need to understand is your international buyer persona across these markets. How do they work and how do they engage? And they engage very differently. So we thought we'd give you a quick example of some of this. So this is a screenshot of an online marketing event that we did for a company, and we did pretty well the same post, obviously localized. One in Mexico, one in the UK. We were really thrilled with our business in the UK. We got 1,200 engagements, very pleased with that. And then we looked at Mexico, 20,000 engagements. Amazing. So we thought this is terrific. You know, the reaction. We thought, wow, this is fantastic. So we've obviously hit the buyer personas in Mexico even more so than in the UK. But I think what's important to note is that on social media you have a certain level of engagement and then you have conversions. And here the same results over time show you, in fact, that the engagement, which is the blue and red on these screenshots, for Mexico versus the blue and red on the UK are very different, but that the conversions could very well be the same. That's the yellow and the green on your screens right now. So that we know in Mexico it takes 20 times the engagement for the same number of conversions. These are very different markets. The Mexicans are very reactive, very sociable, very chatty. They like to click on the likes and the haha and share. The frosty Brits don't. but the conversion levels can very well be the same. So again, that's knowing your buyer persona, knowing the different markets, understanding how to interact with them. And that's just a quick example for that. Moving on, just on this one slide, I wanted to just summarize the sort of 7 top tips, we would say, about online marketing internationally. Obviously, the first step is to get a localized website. That acts as the springboard into your market, so that if you're doing social media in that market, your prospective clients have a place to come back to, which is localized for them. It's no good having an Instagram account in Japan or in Saudi Arabia if the Arabic prospective client doesn't have a place to go to. So that's why you need that localized website first. Then know your buyer persona. Absolutely set your goals for the strategy, and then choose which platforms are the right ones to realize those goals. Might not be Instagram, might be LinkedIn, might be WeChat, might be Youku, whatever it is. Make sure you engage, and then sort of lather, rinse, repeat. Keep going, keep learning, and don't stop. Online marketing is something you engage in. You need to think about an annual budget, an annual engagement and commitment. Less than that starts getting very tricky to analyze what you're actually doing. And what's not good is to start little bits and pieces of things. Have a real strategy in place. There are lots of benefits, obviously, for the online marketing. And I think Ethel Ethel Torres from summed it up also very well. The internet is a competitive place right now. You also need to have an online marketing strategy pretty well from the beginning to say, it's not enough now to sort of build the website, even if it's really well optimized, SEO'd, build it, and they will come. No, you need to probably have a little bit of marketing in there to actually get the traction going. So, and whether you choose email marketing or search engine marketing or social media marketing, whatever it is, there are programs for you that can help in these markets. And the online global program for marketing is something that that North Carolina companies can take advantage of. There are grants available for that too. So I think that is the end of my presentation. If there's not a poll, quickly.
There is a little bit of a poll. So we want to know, if anybody would be interested in website localization or international online marketing. Here's a quick little poll. If you are interested in learning more about the North Carolina Online Global Programs, the North Carolina Website Localization Program, or the North Carolina International Online Marketing Program, let's give you a quick couple of seconds to respond. Here we're getting some good responses. Thank you so much. Let's give you guys a few more seconds, couple of additional votes coming in. Okie dokie. All right. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating, and we'll be in contact with you soon.
Thanks very much, Adrian. I'm going to just round up a little bit, and then I've collected the questions over the webinar, and I'll be fielding questions. So just very, very briefly, our message basically for North Carolina exporters is take advantage of what the EDPNC offers. Get online, do the online global program for localized websites and online marketing that allow you to really to get found internationally, to reach out to your prospective clients and interact with them, do business with them. So that the world is online, you should be online too. Then obviously these the North Carolina Online Global Programs, there's a lot that the whole team EDPNC offers. Really a very, very broad range of services, including the Online Global Program that you can get some grant funding for if your company is eligible for it. And Michael, I think Mike did a great job of outlining those earlier. We have a page on our website as well, which details some of that those services. And then here, reach out to your local EDPNC rep, whether that's Glenn or Kuldip or Jen, who's a specialist on the STEP grants, or Michael Cole, who was on this call. So reach out to your local EDPNC rep and get in touch and work through that. Finally, I guess from us, just a big thank you to Michael Cole from the EDPNC for helping us out on this webinar, and especially also to Ethel for sharing all those experiences. We have a couple of questions. I realize we're on the hour. We have a couple of very quick questions. I'm going to focus them, particularly there's one or two for Ethel. Ethel, if you don't mind, one question has come in. How do you manage the keywords, especially for the Arabic websites? And in your experience, are they significantly different from your US keywords?
Well, I would say that not knowing Arabic, I definitely relied on IBT for some help on those keywords, and it was actually a very straightforward process as well. We were able to give the keywords that we thought would be relative to that market based on our experience in that market. And some of them came back with, yeah, these are popular after IBT did their part to research those keywords. And some of them came back with, no, not. So we kind of went back to the drawing board. IBT also assisted in helping us to do a little due diligence on their part, their resources as to what alternative words to what we thought would work in that market. And we continue to plug those in. So I would say that between the markets, there's definite differences in the keywords, but it's a collaborative approach to figuring out what those are. Like you said, rinse and repeat.
Thank you, Ethel. And perhaps one for Michael. There's someone just asking, do we, for these STEP grants, should we be contacting Jen or you or IBT Online? I think they mean Jen Vogelsworth. So, Michael.
We generally prefer to speak with the company, the international trade manager. So depending on what your industry is, you can go to our website and find the trade manager responsible for your industry and send them an email. If you have any issues, my contact information is displayed on the screen. I'm happy to make that connection regardless of your industry. But we generally like to meet with them before we send them to Jen, just to make sure they understand how the process works.
Good, thank you very much. There's just one little technical question that's come in, which I think I'll answer, which is just about content management systems and which content management, can we work with a content management system that they have? We are agnostic to the content management system. That being said, there are some that do not perform well on international markets. So there are some we would really steer away from. Our preferred ones are probably things like Expression Engine, WordPress, Shopify, Magento. Those are probably the top 3 or 4 that we're using that work really, really well internationally. There are some that don't. I hope that answered that question. If there's no other, there are other questions, but I realize we're running out of time. So then I wanted to thank also my colleague Adrian, and a big shout out to Michael and Ethel again, and to all of you for dropping in and spending some time with us today. We realize you've all got busy schedules, so it's much appreciated. Thank you all so much. Happy trading, happy exporting. Thank you again, Ethel, and be well, stay well, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Goodbye.